Hi, Dr. Klein here, just sitting on my couch. But I wanted to make note that a couple of you, when you submitted your introductory list of songs and telling us a little bit about yourself, several of you mentioned that one of the things that you wish you knew more about were politics, which I think is fantastic. Yes, I think most of us feel like we don't know a whole lot about politics, even if we do sort of follow it. So there's a whole range, but I would love to give you guys some quick resources that can help you learn a little bit about mostly U.S. politics, or just kind of like what's going on in the world. So the place where I'm going to start is something called Skim. So if you look at my screen here, I have my email up. And what Skim is it is a daily email that you get. You can send it to whatever email box that you actually use. And it's kind of neat. It's a little bit fun. When you scroll down, they'll give you sort of like a story that's kind of put in a funny way that are updates about what's going on in the United States. And actually, come to think of it, they do cover some global politics as well. So just like a little bit of synopsis of what's going on. It's funny. And then there are little areas that you can click if you wanted to read a little bit more about the topic. So it's just sort of a wake up. You can read it quickly on your phone and just get a refresh on sort of what happened the day before and kind of what's going on in politics. So I really like this one. Actually, I think it was a student who let me know about Skim. And so I'm sort of passing on that favor to you guys. So if you are interested in joining Skim, I will put a link at the bottom of this video. And if you click on that, that's like a referral link. It's an easy way to get Skim, or honestly, you could just type in Skim with two M's and that would get you to that page. The other sort of two ways that I think are really good ways to keep up with politics somewhat are if you are on Twitter. I find Twitter is really good for just kind of like scanning headlines, or Reddit. So if you have not kind of played around with those, kind of look at Twitter, look at Reddit to see sort of what's in the news there. I personally use Twitter. My husband uses Reddit. I think one of my kids uses Reddit. And it's just a nice way to sort of skim and then fully read things that you're more or less interested in. But you'd be surprised when you scroll about how much you can learn. Anything else? That's probably, the last thing I would mention is podcasts and radio. So if you like tune into like a public radio station or some sort of news radio, especially if you're a commuter, that can be a really good way to get a little, headline on what's going on in the news. Kind of be aware of, maybe what perspective that they're taking, sort of if they're on a more left or right wing kind of perspective, but at least that can kind of help what's in the news. Radio and podcasts. If you find some great podcasts that you like, that's a good way. Those aren't quite as good for like current events, but they go sometimes like a little more in depth to some political issues of the time. So I applaud you wanting to know more about politics and just kind of about the way the world works. I think your generation is getting so much better than maybe my generation was about knowing what's going on in the world and knowing what's going on in the government. I know I'm a public health professor, and I know in public health policy and sort of politics, kind of that larger, who's in power, who's voting for what, who's supporting what, who's funding what, really has a huge effect on the day-to-day lives of people in the United States. So I hope a couple of those resources are helpful. And that you check some of them out. Take care.